Right, good morning everybody. Welcome to this morning's webinar. As I'm sure you're aware, it's on Microsoft 365 Business Voice. For those of you that have joined us before, you'll know this is the fourth in our series of Microsoft Teams webinars. Obviously today we're a little bit more niche than we have done in the past, looking at the phone system side of Microsoft Teams. So we've got the normal guys that have been presenting with me along the last few weeks, and an extra presenter as well. So for those that don't know me, my name's Phil Denham. I'm the commercial director here at HPP in Cameron. So as before, I'm going to really be introing the event today and obviously picking up on any Q&As at the end. But specifically for today, we have drafted in our phone system expert at the HPP group, and that's Johnny Pearson. So Johnny, just check that you're there and we can all hear you.
Morning everybody. Yeah, I can hear you, Phil, and welcome.
Thank you, Johnny. So Johnny's been involved really over a number of years at HPP, been with us a significant amount of time, and kind of really leads everything that it comes to when we're putting in new phone systems, obviously researching new phone systems as well. So we've done a lot of work over the last few weeks of specifically looking into 365 Business Voice, and I'll come to that in a little bit of just kind of where this product is and where we're at with it as well. But also just as way introduction as well, I've got Andy Bolton on the line as well. So say hello, Andy.
Hi, good morning.
And also Tony Pearson.
Morning everybody.
So Andy and Tony, you'll know if we've worked with, if you've been on these sessions before. So Andy is our internal IT manager and has been kind of pivotal in the rollout of Microsoft Teams across the HPP group. So he's going to be available for Q&As at the end, as is Tony Pearson, who's obviously the operations director for HPP in Cameron as well. So we are going to invite a lot of Q&A. As you can imagine, this is a much smaller audience than the wider sessions that we've done. So if you've got questions, put them in. We're going to do our absolute best to answer them. We think there will be a fair few questions today. Potentially you're going to prove me wrong, but we think there's going to be lots of things that come up because this is obviously a brand new system in a very strange world that we're living in at the moment. Okay, I'll just stick me a thing up on screen as well, just in case. Obviously, if you can hear me, this is pretty irrelevant, but we've got people that are sometimes on the line and realise that their speakers aren't necessarily working or turned on, or they potentially need some headphones plugged in. Okay, so just as a way of an introduction to Business Voice before I kind of hand over to Johnny. Now, this is a very new product. So it was launched in 2020 in the UK, so this year. And in normal circumstances, we go through a big period of testing with any products that we take on, normally somewhere between 6 and 12 months to make sure that they're right, that we've given them a thorough test. Sometimes we use those products in-house as well to try and just get rid of all those kind of bugs and gremlins and strange things that crop up. Now, this is not a normal situation, and with this being such a new product, we've only started looking at this within the sort of last few weeks, really. So this is very early on for us, and we want to make that clear to everybody that if this is something that you decide you do want to look into further, we're absolutely going to have a conversation with you. We're absolutely going to do some additional testing around your specific requirements and needs to make sure it fits exactly what you want it to do. But many businesses have had to react really, really quickly to home working, and as such have ended up having to do a bit of a kind of sticky plaster approach to their phone system, whether that's getting a few people working from home with handsets, or having to use kind of mobile phones, or just forwarding numbers to mobile phones. So this gives us a new option. I mean, setup costs are relatively low in compared to a full phone system because it's using that Microsoft Teams base. And although we're not quite ready to kind of say it's a rival to a fully blown phone system, something like a VIA IP Office that we generally recommend, we think that in the current situation, this could be a really good option for a lot of people to get working a lot more effectively from home. We know lockdown's already been extended a bit further. None of us know when we're going to come out of that, but what we kind of looking at is thinking, well, if we're going to need to settle into this home working pattern for a bit longer, then actually maybe we need to do something a little bit more permanent, or at least semi-permanent around our phone systems. So yeah, so it's a bit earlier than we would like to bring to market, but we feel it's the right time to at least start this discussion and introduce you to the product, and that's what today's session is going to do. But like I say, if you've got any questions now, stick them in the Q&A. If we bring up anything along the way, stick them in the Q&A. primarily we're going to talk about Business Voice, but if there's other stuff that's cropped up around Microsoft Teams as well, feel free to go into that as well. Okay, so just hand over to Johnny in a second. It's fairly straightforward. Johnny's going to really run over the features of the software, so what it's capable of doing, how it can work, and we're going to basically do a live demonstration with all the potential pitfalls that doing live demonstrations can bring up sometimes, and then we'll pick up all the Q&As at the end. So, right, if you're there, Johnny, if you want to kind of take over the sharing of the screen.
Yeah, no problem. Spare me a second. Morning, everybody, again. So, like Phil said, I'm just going to obviously go over some of the features first, try and do a bit of a live demo just to kind of show you how it feels as a core flow really from there. And obviously any Q&As, please put them in so we can try and answer as many questions as possible. So just carrying on where Phil left off, really. Obviously, hopefully most of you are using Teams already. Obviously, since COVID-19, everybody is needing a quick and easy tool to collaborate, even just on chats, video calls, etc. So obviously Teams has been around for a while to do that. And with it being part of the Office 365 portfolio, the only thing that's really kind of lacking, I guess, that's obviously now in there is the ability to have PSTN sort of calling into there. So calls from your main phone system, telephone numbers, and allowing users that are already using Teams to be able to call out using a handset, an application, mobile phone, etc. Whereas, like Phil said, most of the customers that we've been dealing with at the moment have done a plaster sort of approach where their main telephone numbers maybe just forwarded to the CEO's mobile. Maybe you've got a couple of extensions that are set up to twin to a mobile, which is actually quite good for receiving calls. It's just then making calls out from your system in the office is a bit of a problem when people don't want to display their personal mobiles, etc. So it's kind of where people are at the moment. Obviously, nobody expected this COVID-19 to happen and as quickly as it did to get people home working. So Teams is obviously a huge application, and to get this kind of phone system side of it working, it's basically just an add-on license per user. And this is something you can actually trial now as well. So if you've got anybody and you want to have a play around with this, you can actually add a free trial to 1, 2, 10, up to 25 users, where you can actually bolt on the phone system to a user or to the a couple of users and start playing around with it. You even can get a telephone number from a geographical location, so obviously we can add that onto there as well. So what do you get with it? It is basically a cloud-based phone system, obviously just all the extras of Teams collaboration that you hopefully are already using. So this is just the extra bit to the cake, really. So obviously you can transfer calls. You've got multiple level auto attendance, call queues. So obviously if you want to ring a sales team and have it bounce around 3 or 4 extensions in a certain order all together, maybe then overflow somewhere else if they don't pick up within a certain amount of time. It's got all those features in there. If you go for the standard like Microsoft Call Plan, you can basically add minutes on per user. So with Microsoft standard out of the box one, you get like 1,200 minutes within the UK, if that's where your tenancy is. So that allows members of staff to make calls out up to 1,200 minutes per user. Now, actually, they don't advertise it very clearly, but that's actually a shared pot. So if you've got Bill in the finance department that makes thousands of calls, and then obviously Joe, who's an engineer, that makes half those calls, then he can take some of that pot. It's basically totaled up from all of the users on the system, which is quite handy if you've only got users that make a certain amount of calls and then users that have got a lot of calls. You've got the option, once you've got this set up as well, to have a dial-in audio conferencing bridge. Now, some of you using Teams already will probably been doing conferencing maybe to your individual staff or off tenancy to other people with an invite, and obviously you can have multiple people in there, but that relies on an application or going to a web browser, and in effect you're relying on that person having some sort of internet SIP based connection to be in that conference. When you add the Microsoft phone system to the mix, then obviously you're presented with a conference bridge number. so which obviously individuals can call that number from their usual handset, an analog line, whatever it may be, to join in your conference. So obviously that's kind of a nice thing to have as well, to be able to do there. Yeah, so
Johnny, sorry, can I just mention, sorry to interrupt there, but I
okay.
think you're not on the screen that you want. We can only see your web page at the moment.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I'm just going through the list of features.
Okay, sorry.
No, you're fine. So if you're obviously, I'll flick to that screen now actually, but there's a huge list of features on here that it can do, and obviously I'll show you a little bit of the admin section as well with the phone system. So if some of you are kind of got members of staff and team that like technology but not necessarily like to have a phone client that's on a PC with a headset, obviously Teams phone system offers you, as I said earlier, different devices, so you don't have to use a headset with a laptop or a web browser or a mobile phone app. You can also have, a traditional handset on the desk. So Teams supports quite a lot actually of different handsets that are available, and obviously these handsets, because in effect you're logging in as your Teams account, they can be anywhere. So obviously, like the pandemic at the moment, these could be shipped out to people's houses. They could log in with their Office 365 Teams username and password, and it connects directly to the cloud. So that's a massive advantage. Obviously, you can make calls and receive calls and communicate through the phone the same way as the application straight away. So then when things calm down, and obviously then members of staff are going to come back into the office, they can literally pick up the handset and bring it back into the office and plug it in the same way as they can from home. Now, the home working with telephones does have its own limitations in terms of obviously how it's connected. Obviously, most of these phones do require an Ethernet cable to your router. So for people's houses, and you work in an office that's not near your router, then you need to be looking potentially to get a cable to there, or look at one that maybe supports wireless, or go down the headset route, which obviously plugs into a laptop from there. So
what we've done recently that works really well is the power over Ethernet plugs as well. I know Phil's working on them at home and a fair few of our staff, so they work really well in a house if you need to get Ethernet across the other side of the house or something like that.
Yeah, good point. And obviously because they use your existing ring main, it does make it a lot easier. So there's plenty of choice out there. That's the advantage of all cloud-based phone systems, really, is you've got the option of mobile, your laptop with a headset or a phone. So we can send you these links as well afterwards. But basically, there's a huge range of phones. You could also, go to something like a basic Yale-Link phone that you can see that gives you a standard dial keypad with some chat on the right hand side. So it's the same as the application on your mobile, really, but you're using a physical handset. Some people like to hold and feel that, slam it down after a call, whatever it is, that's the sort of thing. And a slightly higher, larger screen if that's required. The other option, Jabra do quite good conferencing speakers. They also do really good Bluetooth headsets. So if you're wanting noise cancelling, you're in a noisy environment and you like the feel of a headset, obviously then Jabra is a good solution for you. If you're using a laptop and the application, you don't need a headset at all. If you've got a microphone and speakers, you can obviously call into there. But it's just giving that extra comfort, and noise cancelling is an option as well from there. Just going back to what I said earlier with regards to the telephone numbers, obviously you can get a dial-in conference bridge, so that if you are hosting a meeting, a webinar that the customers want to dial into, Microsoft does offer you quite a lot of geographical location numbers, so that these are numbers that they can bring in from that particular country to get into your conference bridge. So obviously for the UK, you're presented with a London number that then you can enter a PIN code, and then they will appear on your Teams conference from there. So I'll just give you an overview of Teams, the administration of the phone system. For those of you that have gone into Teams administration side of it, this is something that we can obviously assist you with and help you set up if you're wanting to look at it and trial it, etc. But basically, this is the Microsoft 365 Admin Center, and we can just go into the voice from here. So one of the nice things about the Teams phone system, if you do want it for testing as well, basically, is you can spin up telephone numbers, and obviously in geographical locations. And this is something, even if you put a trial on, like this one's a trial at the moment, you can pick a number in an area, get it set up, and then use that to call in from your mobile just to get a look and feel for it. So this is available now. Just add yourself a free trial, and we can assist you with that and go from there. It's a simple process of just clicking add, clicking a region, and away you go. Now, bear in mind, if you're using Microsoft's dial plan, the domestic voice dial plan, they are limited on locations where you can get telephone numbers. Now, they're always adding to it, and it's most major cities in the UK, but there are some that are not on there. So, for example, Scunthorpe is not in the list. So if we wanted to trial a Scunthorpe number or add a Scunthorpe number onto our live service, we couldn't do that with Microsoft's domestic call plans. But what you can do is you don't actually have to use Microsoft's own business voice dial plan. You can basically pay for a voice phone system license for a user, but then use a third-party SIP trunk provider that you maybe already have and trust to link in to your existing system. So, for example, someone like Gamma. So you could have all your telephone numbers with Gamma and use them as a trunk service, which potentially is going to give you different call rates as well. I mean, Gamma offer, for example, I think 2,500 minutes per user, whereas Microsoft offer 1,200 minutes per user, etc. So that's another option, and we can definitely help you with that if that's something that you are interested in. If you didn't go down the Gamma route and thought, you're going to buy a business voice license, £12 a user, then you can do that. And if you had, for example, if you were in Scunthorpe as a business like HBP are, you can still retain the numbers you've got. Once you've ported them into the Microsoft 365 phone system, then those numbers are live and working on your system. You just can't buy from Microsoft directly additional Scunthorpe numbers at the moment. But obviously, like HBP, let's say we've got 100 telephone numbers, 100 direct dials. Once we go live with Teams, we can port those in, and then Microsoft obviously will look after those numbers for us. So that's not a problem on there. I probably didn't mention it earlier, so I'll just touch on it now before I just show you the live demo, is the license inside of this. Again, we can send you some slides just to clarify how it works. In order to get the phone system license working per user, you already have to have an Office 365 plan, like an enterprise plan or a small business plan, etc. So you could have a user with Microsoft 365 Business Essentials, for example, that maybe gives them an email mailbox, OneDrive, etc. That's fine. Or a business premium account where you've got, again, an email mailbox and you've got Office installed on the local machine. But you have to have those first before you can add on a business voice license. So rough idea of pricing, I think the cheapest one, like a Business Essentials, is about £3 or £4. You could then add a business voice license on top of that for like £12, and that's going to give you a working user that can make and receive calls on Teams from there. So this is where we can add phone numbers. We've got an option to add auto attendance. So you can see here that I've created a couple already. So we've got a main auto attendant that we can set up, which most business phone systems would like to, press 1 for this, 2 for that, etc. You can have a time profile on there, so when it kicks in, etc. From there, we can have a fallback user, so if the person that calls in doesn't know who to connect to, we can have that. Typical signed out. Let's just start looking. Spare me a second. Microsoft Security. This admin portal is all in the Office 365 portal for Teams and everything. So the phone system settings, if you're familiar with this, is quite handy to have all of the settings in there. Let me just see if it'll let me back in. This is the beauty of live demos, but it is a security thing. It just timed out basically because I logged in and left it paused for a certain length of time when I was just talking. So we've got a fallback option on the user. We can click next to go to the next section of creating an auto attendant. So what do we want to do when I receive a call? Do I want to play an existing greeting? Do I want to upload a greeting or type a greeting with text so that the system recalls it? Now, when I was setting this up, I would advise, and recording is dead easy. You can obviously record using your own device and upload it. You can get a professional company to record a greeting for you. I would highly recommend that you use that, because I wasn't a massive fan of the greeting in text. It was very robotic and there wasn't a massive choice of languages on there. So this is just where you upload a file. Then you can obviously create yourself a simple auto attendant. So what happens when they press 1? Well, I want it to go to a sales group, which is what we call a voice application, and it can ring the sales queue. And a queue is a group of users that are in Teams phone system that it's going to call. So whether it be their handset or mobile phone, it doesn't matter. And obviously number 2 is exactly the same, or we can press 0 to go to an operator, which I set on the first screen. It has got the option as well to dial by name. So if you've got a big organization, you can record in your prompt, I guess, when you receive a call. If you know the name of the person you require, please dial their extension now or say their name. And obviously Microsoft phone system can read back all the people on the system, and then they can select that person. So that's quite handy. You can set, as you'd expect, standard time profiles of when your office is open and closed on this auto attendant. So obviously you can do that there. And then again, what greeting do you want to play after hours? So maybe it's going to be redirected, and we're going to go to a night service auto attendant that says our offices are now closed. Please leave a message after the tone. And then in effect, what we can do with that is send that to a shared Exchange Office 365 mailbox, where that recording is then stored and can be emailed out to people that are in that distribution group, etc. So that's how that works. You can have holiday modes as well. So like a Christmas time, I wanted to do something different. I wanted to play a Christmas greeting, and then in my case disconnect, go off and go to another auto attendant with more options on whatever it may be, standard stuff. Dial scope who it's going to include, and then a resource account is where you define a telephone number to work on that system. So that's the auto attendant. The call queues, which is linked to the auto attendant, is what you'd expect as well. You can have greetings on there to say welcome to the sales queue, etc. Who's going to be in that group? So I've just set up a couple of test users at the moment, myself and my wife. So basically you can ring both those in a round robin. So when it's used, call agent get the same number on the queue. We can do it serial routing, which is like a on idle, or attendant routing, where we all ring them at the same time. There's where I talked about earlier, where you can set the alert agent alert times, and then basically how long or how many calls can be in the queue before you want it to do something else. So in this particular queue, I'm allowing it to ring for 20 minutes and then disconnect, but of course that would be a redirect to maybe an overflow queue, or someone that then can pick that call up saying, sorry, all the sales agents are busy at the moment, etc., etc. So it's got quite a lot of features you probably already got on your on-premise or your existing cloud-based phone system that you kind of want in a phone system online. So you should quite easily be able to handle calls and redirect to multiple agents just with those couple of features in there. The actual phone system client itself is not a third-party product, it's Teams. So if you're already using Teams, the phone system client does not look any different whatsoever. So if you're used to seeing this is exactly the same. So I'll just bring up my screen. So the left-hand side one is my mobile phone. The right-hand side one is my test Teams application. So in the call section, we've got obviously speed dials, contacts, history, voicemail. That should be familiar to pretty much if you had a video call within your organization. That's the beauty I like about Teams. There's so many phone systems out there and some really good cloud-based ones and really good collaboration tools. But if you're already using Teams for your collaboration, obviously it links into the Office 365 portfolio, so it's all integrated. You really want to have all of your chat, your collaboration information in one application. Whereas in the past, you're always constantly having to switch between the two. This is why having the phone system side of Teams in here is a massive advantage, to then just use Teams for all of your communication, collaboration within your organization. So the mobile phone one is exactly the same. We've got activity, chat, you know, Teams, where you can create a Teams group. I've got a night service one in there to see the night service voicemail. You've got a calendar option, and you've got calls where you can see your call history, or we can make a call. To make a call on the mobile using the app, it's dead easy. There's a cursor here in the top right hand corner on the mobile app, where we can literally press that, dial in a telephone number of the person we want to call into the pad. So let's just do, and then make that call. Simple as that. Starts making the call. We get audio. That's now ringing the office. From there, we can basically put the call on hold. We can park the call. We can transfer the call. So parking's quite a good option if you're unsure or how to get hold of the person initially that call maybe is for. We can look at parking that call into the system. So if I show you that on here, so if I call into the system, I'll show you on the web client, because when I've connected a call to the mobile app, you can't see the screen, unfortunately. It's quite difficult to demo this using like tools to connect to things. So this is turn the volume down. This is a call coming in on my test number, and obviously it's ringing the sales queue. So Sarah's part of the sales queue. So this is now showing it on the Teams application within a Windows client. We click the phone to answer it. I've got no microphone on there, so I can ignore that message. Then we're talking away. We've got the option here for the park call option. So we press park call. When you park the call, that instantly puts the customer on hold, and we can see it's parked here, and basically it just gives you a park code. So this is code 11. So if there's another user with the application and needed to pick up that call, they can go down to their calls section, click park calls, type in the number, in this case 11, and pick it up, and then to get the call back. So that's a nice, easy little pickup option to do that, and that would be the same. It looks exactly the same on the mobile. Unfortunately, my mobile connection dropped because you can't accept a call in Teams twice on there, but basically it's the same thing. So that gives you an easy way to transfer a call. You've got the option as well to obviously to consult or chat, and you know, you don't have to call that person up. Just say there's a call on line 1 or park 11 in this case, and then obviously they can pick that up. So I'll just bring a call in again. So call comes into the system. We've got the option to obviously hold the call. So if you just want to check someone in your system and you want them to have music on hold, which is obviously just an upload WAV file onto the system. Microsoft Teams does have like default hold music, but again, I'd recommend that you put on your own royalty free or whatever you pay for track to have that on the system to do that. You can do that. You can, I don't know what happened there. It's dropped. Let's bring them back in. And I'll just bring another call in. So that's that. We can transfer the call, which is basically a case of just pressing the transfer button, searching for somebody in your phone book. So this is going to be basically people within your organisation tenancy. So you're going to see everyone in here. So you can start typing. In my case, I'm just going to click on my name, click transfer. Drops a call on the particular software because I've done a direct blind transfer to another user. So I've had my mobile phone presentation open now. You will see my mobile phone ringing, but that would also kill my remote connection to it because you can't have the two running at the same time, unfortunately. But you get the idea of that. One other thing that I was messing about with that I wasn't too sure whether you could do is whether you could do a conference call from an incoming call, and this is possible. It's just done in a slightly different way. So if I press answer on the call comes in, not the microphone again. So obviously on the more actions we've got park call, transfer and hold, but there was no conference there if I wanted to then get to another person involved. So what you do is you do show participants, and then in here you could add in another telephone number that you wanted to call. So for example, if I just bring up a HB, let's just do HBP, copy that number. So invite someone into this conference, paste that into there. The system's going to go away and call that third-party number. So this could be PSTN network. So in our case, a SIP-based telephone system at our office. So that's obviously just calling our auto attendant, but that's basically now in a three-way conference, and I could add another user and another user and another user. So that's quite a handy feature as well to have that. So conferencing is out of the box and ready to work with the same system. If you conferenced in people through the Teams app as well, which you can do in there, of course you could turn that into a video call as well for people that have got the software. Anyone that's on the external, dialing a telephone number will just hear the audio, but you can convert that to a Teams app at any time. The application with it on the calendar side of it will have an extra feature. If you've used a calendar with Teams, this has obviously the extra feature of the conference bridge I was talking about with the telephone numbers. So for example, if I was going to create a new meeting, test demo, for example, require an attendee, click on somebody, doesn't really matter whatever it's going to be, and send that in there. What the end user would actually get is the request, but then there is the toll number that you get. That's the London number I'm talking about. So basically anybody that hasn't got an application or is not near a device, they can still join the meeting. They just need to have the conference ID, telephone number and password to get into the meeting, which you can pin code and protect on there. So that's quite a handy feature, and every single user that you add a phone system license to through the Microsoft Core plan, the £12 a month plan, gets that facility. So that's quite handy as well on there. Call section on here, obviously the voicemail. The voicemail has a quite nifty little feature called transcribe. So obviously if someone's left you a voicemail, in this case this is a personal voicemail left to me, it'll try and transcribe as best it can that voicemail. You can still play it through the application or your mobile phone, but you also get a transcribed version of it, so you can just quickly look. I don't know if you're in a busy area and you don't want to play it, then you can just read the text out from there as well, which is quite a handy feature. So with every user on Microsoft Teams, you all individual get, and then we can send that into a group voicemail mailbox from there. So that's quite handy as well. So that's the basic quick round robin overview of it, of the system. Obviously this is something that you can test yourselves. You can literally spin up a test license, which we can help you with, providing you've got one of those Office 365 licenses already. Then we can add on a 30-day trial to the phone system side of it for maybe 1 or 2 users, get it set up, maybe get a test number in a certain location and start testing it and make sure that it does what you want it to do. And then from there, you can obviously, when you're ready, go live with it. If you were going to use a Microsoft Dial plan, obviously getting your telephone numbers across from your existing system is the bit that obviously can take the time. If you've ever dealt with transferring telephone numbers from an existing provider, it's usually like a 30-day process. But what you could do before we do what we call a number port request, which is basically transferring the numbers from your current provider to Microsoft or Gamma, is to do, just rather than diverting, as you probably are at the moment, to a couple of mobile phones, divert your telephone numbers to some new Microsoft numbers, and then everything can work in the same way. And then you can put your number port form in. After 30 days, all your telephone numbers come across, your divert drops, and again, it's ringing onto the new system. So there's a quite easy way to transition across, using number forwarding originally, and then obviously from that you can go live straight away. So hopefully that's answered or a few of the questions. And obviously if we go over to the Q&A now and see what we've got.
Yeah, thanks very much, Danny. I've been asked a few questions, but the main one that's just come across is, what would you say the main differences are between this solution and things like Avaya from an equivalency perspective?
I think it's a good question. I think basically with Teams, it's if you're used to using Teams already, then it has obviously enough features to work as a phone system. But for example, with Avaya, you get call recording straight out the system. You get live call stats straight out the system. With Teams phone system, the call stats is a basic overview. There's no live call stats. Then they are all third-party products that you can add on, etc., and things like that. And call recording within the PSTN side of the Microsoft Teams, so the phone system element of it is not included. Again, there are third parties that you can do that, whereas traditional phone systems like Avaya, you're going to get that out of the box. You know, the call recording, the advanced call reports, you know, live stats, who's on the phone at what time, etc. So the main differences between the two are just obviously personal choice in how you collaborate the information. So if you're already on board with Teams and you're kind of using that as your collaboration tool, then it makes sense to go down the Teams route. If you've already got a third-party phone system like Avaya and you are taking advantage of all the chat within that facility, then of course it makes sense to stay with that for your phone system. But as regards to the main core differences, they both support incoming calls, you know, group ringing, auto attendance, transferring calls, conferencing. So most of those features, you know, are what people need as a day-to-day phone system anyway. So.
Cool, thank you. I think to just elaborate on that slightly as well, I think it's probably more of a way of changing the way your business works and not just looking for a phone system that does everything yours does now because you've done it for the last 20 years that way. If you're willing to kind of rip up the procedures or the process of the way you do things and think, well, actually, how does the business need to perform now? I think majority of the things that Johnny showed you there today that Teams is capable of is more than enough to run a normal business in this day and age. And then I think that the big thing is, as Johnny focused on it, it's one place. You haven't got two applications you have to use. You haven't got your Avaya app and then your Teams app. Everything's all in one place in a familiar environment that everybody can access really quickly and easily.
One of the questions I've just seen there, has it been tested with the Sophos UTM? Obviously, I've tested it through our Sophos Direct Access, so that's going out through UTM. But what Microsoft do pride themselves on, and a lot of phone systems in the cloud have noticed they're not doing this. So they've got direct routing access straight into the Teams tenancy for wherever you're located. So, for example, if you're going to have your traditional VPN client on for a remote worker into your office, which a lot of people will know and use, then we would set up what we call split tunneling. By doing that, we allow Teams, rather than to go through your corporate network, Teams goes to the next available hop. That is basically all providers in the UK have got a direct route to the Teams audio servers. So it always gets the least hops, the least amount of, you know, internet providers to get to where it needs to, and that massively improves audio. So obviously when you're out and about, you in the case of that question, you wouldn't want your audio to go through the UTM anyway. You'd want it to go for the quickest route possible. So all your VPN traffic, your day-to-day business data still goes over the VPN to the Sophos appliance in that case, but all of your Teams audio goes directly to the next hop straight into the Teams audio data center to give that crisp voice all the time. And that's something that Microsoft pride themselves in, of how that works. So you're never getting any delay.
Thank you. I think that was it for Q&A. Unless anybody has any more questions, we'll be here for the sort of next 5-10 minutes. So please do post any other questions that you've got from there. I think we'll just hand back to Phil.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, if you've got any more questions, then obviously stick them on the Q&A. If not, if you've got separate questions, you want to talk about your own individual setup, then obviously you know where we are. Have a conversation with us after this. I think it's worth pointing out as well that in the middle of everything that's going on, the type of system this is absolutely kind of perfect for remote setup. So in terms of how we could implement this in your business and what we could do in terms of delivering training, even if there's involved in handsets that need to be set up and shipped out to the relevant users, that's absolutely something that can be done with this phone system because of the way it's obviously designed and the way it's set up. So if it is something you're looking on moving faster, then we can have a conversation with that. But like all phone systems, there is a lot of conversation that needs to be had around how you want calls to flow and who wants to pick them up and all that sort of thing. So it isn't necessarily a one size fits all, but if you want to do something, give us a call or drop us an email and we can have a conversation with you specifically about that. Right, just in case there's any last minute questions, I'll just go through a couple of others, or just one other slide, and that's just a reminder of where everything is. So we are recording today We will put it up on our website, so both HPP and Cameron websites. So hppsystems.co.uk/events or cameron.co.uk/events. There's all the recordings from our previous sessions there as well, if you want to share them with your users or have a look at them again yourselves. This one we normally get them up by about 3 in the afternoon, so this one should be available by then. There's all the other resources on there still as well, the quick start guides, details about the freemium version of Teams, how to download apps to phones and things like that, and a full support guide. So all of the resources that we've kind of made available are on our blog. We're sharing them on social media. Hopefully you're following us on there as well. And I haven't got a slide on it, but the plan for next week at the moment, I think we just need to confirm this is absolutely correct for us all, is to do an admin session. So we're gonna, again, it's a fairly niche topic again, but I guess the guys that are on this webinar at the moment, it'll probably be relevant to you. That's looking through the admin section of Teams, looking at the options available. So a lot of the Q&As we've had have been around, I haven't got that button, or I'm trying to invite somebody from external and it won't let me do it. How do I kind of work around that side of things? So we're going to cover off those sort of topics, either if you manage your tenancy yourself or if we do it for you, just so you can see what's available, what can be turned off, what can be turned on, and kind of what Teams can do in general. Have we had any more Q&As come through?
We've got one more. Johnny, one for Johnny. Is there a limit and length or size to the hold music / the advertising side of things on there?
Yeah, there is a certain length of size. It's up to a 5 meg file, not necessarily the length. It's just obviously the size of the data at the moment. They are looking at changing that, but at the moment it's a 5 meg file on the upload if you're going to do it for the hold music. But you can add those per queue as well, per auto attendant. So you can basically have different queue messages, different music on hold for different queues, but it's 5 meg.
Okay, one more question. Would you suggest this options over Teams audio conferencing license?
I think I get the question. The Teams audio conferencing license would be, so if you weren't going to go for the Microsoft Dial plan and you wanted the conferencing license, which is basically just the telephone number to be able to call into the conference bridge, then we would recommend using direct routing for that. So like it's the Microsoft Call plan for £12 a month, for example. Obviously that's going to give you the 1200 minutes. If you wanted to get rid of that and go direct routing with your current provider or Gamma, for example, then obviously you could pay a £6 phone system license for a user. Let's say it's £4 a month per user for Gamma, and then you would need to buy the conferencing license on top of that. I think that's what you were saying. Whereas obviously if you go for the £12 a month, Microsoft give you the 1200 minutes per user plus the conferencing license anyway bundled in.
So I suppose it just depends whether you want to use the Teams as a phone system as well as the conferencing, or if you just want to use it for conferencing only. Is that correct?
Yes, yeah. Obviously if you're going to use it for conferencing where users call in from a PSTN from a traditional telephone number, you would have to have the phone system license to do that per user anyway.
Okay, thank you. Well, I think that wraps up the questions now, Phil. So
yeah,
I'll just hand back to you to wrap up.
Yeah, so again, just to reiterate, you've got any more questions, fire them our way. We'll pick them up on an individual basis, no problem. But I think that's it. Hopefully that's been useful for everyone. If I'm completely honest, that's the first time I've seen that demo in its entirety, and I thought it looked really good. So hopefully that gives you, at the very least, a bit of insight to what's available out there. And like I say, if you do want to know more, you want to know how that works with your own business, your own setup, then get in touch and we can help out there. So thank you, Johnny, for that presentation, and thank you everyone for attending. So we'll end it there. Have a brilliant rest of the day and rest of the week. And if it's of interest to you, we'll see you next week on the admin session. Thank you very much.